Extremely well-deserved honor, and something that Kyle has worked for 5 years, culminating with an unbelievable career and a great senior season. You know, it's a new coaching staff, so it's quite a bit different in that respect, but they've got a ton of ability to make big plays, whether it's running the ball or throwing the ball.
Their concepts look pretty similar to Coastal, just watching them, and so even their personnel with their big receivers. So is that going to be much of an adjustment, coaching, just because you've seen a similar type of offense this week?
Well, we see a similar type of offense every week, seems like, in the Valley, with a lot of teams running the read zone and running the option game off of it. And so I think it helps us in preparation, but in the same respect, I think it probably helps Sam in preparation to say, okay, we can look back at Southern Illinois or Youngstown or Coastal or whoever else and say, here's how they defended it. So we've got to do a great job defensively of adjusting some of our things in our game plan and come up with some new wrinkles.
How does the Friday game change your preparation week?
Well, it changed it quite a bit starting yesterday. We had a walkthrough. You know, it was a physical game. Our guys were pretty sore, but we had a walkthrough yesterday. We'll have a normal practice today, and then we'll go in pads today, and then we'll start tapering it off the remainder of the week. We obviously won't go near as long. You know, we're only going to be out there probably at most an hour and 15 minutes for a practice. But we've got to get our work done. The guys got finals. There's a lot of things going on in their lives. And the only thing I told our guys is you get everything you need to get done from an academic point of view in the morning, evening, those times. But when you come to practice, we got to have great focus and give us that hour and a half you're here, or 2 hours when we include the meetings, so that we can have a great plan for Saturday, or Friday night, I'm sorry.
Any injuries from Saturday?
You know, Chris Board suffered a concussion that we'll learn a little bit more about early this week. Adam Schuler, I think, has a hip or a back that we'll learn about earlier this week, but I don't think anybody that will miss the game. I think they'll all be back. You know, Chris would be the one that we'll have to wait on a little bit. I don't think Zach will come back. I know he is a lot better than he was last week. But I don't see him in the game plan. If it is, it'd be a great bonus to us.
You have a big punt return 2 weeks ago, kickoff return last week. How do you address those? What were the problems there? Are you changing anything?
Well, we've looked at that. You know, the kickoff return, I know we were disappointed in, because we had a couple people miss their fit and we missed a tackle. It's something we've talked about. Do we have to put a few more starters on that team? And I know that as a coaching staff, we'll look at that. You know, we did put a couple of starters on. You saw Hegel on kickoff return a little bit during that game. You know, we'll probably play Carlton, Colton, and Kyle a little bit on punt this week, just to make sure that we get, you know, a few of our, quote, key guys or starters on there. We can't give up those plays. I mean, we're fortunate. You give up punt return and a kick return essentially for touchdowns and find a way to win the game. That doesn't happen very often, so we've got to be able to shore those two areas up.
How tough is it to put those people in there when you know they're taking so many snaps and such an important part of the actual physical game plan when it comes to it?
You know, I would say normally that would be a tough situation, but you're talking December 15th, and the guys that I mentioned are in the twilight of their NDSU career, and I'm sure that if you'd ask, you know, Colton or LJ or Kyle, do you want to be out there to help us find a way to win this play, because that's what we always talk about, is winning that play, they'd do it. And if we got to take them off of a snap of defense to make sure that we get great field position, that's what we've got to be able to do.
Third playoff game in a row, Chris. We're going to face a really good receiver. Looks like this Ladarius Brown is top notch.
Yeah.
Another challenge for your
absolutely. They just keep coming, and that's, you're going to go against great players right now, and we've got to do a good job of being able to cover him if we have man-to-man situations. We've got to be able to do a good job of rolling over the top of him sometimes and giving one of our defensive backs some help. But you know, that's kind of the chess match that you play, especially against a no-huddle offense, which is what Sam Houston will be. Is, you know, how well can we disguise our look so that they can't tell whether or not we're playing zone, whether or not we're playing man, or where we're shading our secondary.
You guys go back to how you ended the last game, those three rushers and pressuring the quarterback there, or do you go back to your initial game plan?
Well, we haven't gotten that far in the game plan. Beth, we'll look at that probably more tomorrow.
You watch film from their early games? Have you seen all their game tape?
We've got every one.
What has changed?
They're just gelling. You know, they had a lot of new players and a new coaching staff. You know, Coach Keeler's a tremendous football coach. I have a lot of respect for him, and I think it just took them a little longer to, you know, get their plan and implement it, and get get the coaches familiar and comfortable with each of their players' strengths and weaknesses. And they're hot right now. They're playing exceptionally well, and they're winning some tough road games. You know, they had to beat a conference opponent in the first round, and then they've won a couple of games on the road. Jacksonville State's got really good, talented players. Villanova's got exceptionally talented players, and you win playoff games on the road, you're a pretty doggone good team, and they definitely are.
Coach, these players on your team have played so many games over the last, I mean, you look at the senior class, they've been in the national championship every year. And playing all those games, how do you keep these guys healthy? Is it more on the players and what they do and what they're able to do to keep their bodies healthy?
Well, it's a couple things. It's what Coach Kramer does with them, strength and conditioning wise, of getting their bodies back. It's what Bobby does in the training room, getting their bodies back. It's by us as coaches looking at the practice to say, hey, we're going to cut out pads one day this week. We're going to cut it from 18 periods to 15 periods. We're going to, usually we have an extra period of a team or an inside run. We may cut that back a little bit. And then it's our coaches having great experience to be able to say, hey, we've seen enough of that play. We got to move on, so that we can, nobody's healthy and nobody's fresh in mid-December. You just got to make sure that you do a good job of getting your guys as good as you can get them, as fresh as you can get them for a Friday night kick. So we're fortunate in that respect that we get to play at home, where we don't have that travel day that Sam will have.
Piggybacking on Jody a little bit, the mental toughness of this group that you guys have, how have you seen that kind of take over at this point? I mean, you look at last year, this time they were dealing with the turnover with the coaching staff. They were able to stay tough and keep coming out. This year, they're nicked up. They're probably as banged up as across the board as they've ever been.
But they understand the grind of this. I mean, many of these guys that we're all talking about have done this 11, 12, 13, and 14. And in every one of those years, we've lost a critical player. And in every one of those years, we've faced a bunch of adversity. You know, these guys just get it. They understand that this is the way it's supposed to be. And you've got to turn your attention each day to what you've got to do to understand that game plan, what you got to do to understand the opponent, so that we can peak on Friday in this case, or Saturday last week, just to be able to peak on at time for game time. But they've got unbelievable mental toughness, and once again, that starts with what we do in January with Coach Kramer. And these guys will give the credit to Jim, because Jim gets those guys. If you can get through a winter conditioning and a summer conditioning with Coach Kramer, you're going to be mentally tough, and then our kids carry that over into the football season.
Is this the culmination of a program and a tradition that we're seeing at this point, do you think?
Well, I think it's the continue on of a tradition. I don't think there's any culmination, because we got a bunch of other guys that are going to continue to keep this thing rolling. But I just think it's this senior class saying it's our turn, and we're going to be the leaders, and we're going to keep sending that message down to the younger guys, is this is what you've got to do to prepare. And as you've seen in these playoffs, younger guys have stepped up, and I credit our seniors for getting those guys on the right page.
Coach, it seems like last 2 weeks you guys have gotten off to good starts. Like it was 14-0 and then 14-3, but then there's been that period where the other team's gotten back into it. How do you eliminate that period?
Hopefully you don't play as good of football teams. You know, these guys are good. You know, that's the thing that I guess a lot of you guys don't understand, is we're not as good as we were in 2013. That's the bottom line. We're not as good a football team as we were in 2013. You take 25 seniors off that team, and a number of those guys played in the NFL or playing there. We are getting everything out of our guys, and our guys are playing their tails off, and we're playing really good teams. And Coastal Carolina came in here for the second time with the same quarterback, a number of the same wide receivers, a number of the same defensive kids, and said, we feel like we belong here. South Dakota State, everybody knew that one was going to be a one-possession game either way. So every week, guys, is a new week. And every week, I'm so happy we won last week. I'll be happier than heck if we win this week. But there are no guarantees, and you just got to put your best foot forward and see what happens on Saturday, because anybody can beat anybody.
Coach, you got Eric Perkins at punt return. Is that still going to be a revolving door there?
Well, he was the kick returner. CJ will still punt return some. I wish we could put Christian back there, but his shoulder just can't do it. So we've got to keep Perk back there, and he's doing a nice job for us.
You look at your safeties. What comes to mind when you look at there? You got two seniors who've been around, forever, played so many games. What stands out to you?
Great leaders. Yeah, great leadership. Great competitors. Guys that have helped me get to where I am today in this profession. Guys that mean a lot to me personally, mean a lot to my family personally. Guys that I'll have a long relationship with well after football. And, you ask Coach Klieman, you don't have to coach those guys an awful lot from a schematic standpoint. They get the game, and that makes it awfully not easy, but makes it a lot easier for a secondary coach or for a defensive coordinator to put the pieces in different spots, knowing that these safeties know what the heck they're doing.
Are they just beat up are they holding together Band-Aids kind of thing right now, both of them? They're beat up, but a lot of people are beat up, and they're never going to make an excuse. They know that they've got to play at a high level for us to be successful. What do you think makes Kyle the player he is this year? More reps obviously has helped the stats. Well, that's not necessarily this year, but he's just got an unbelievable motor. He's got great technique. He understands our system so well. He understands what an offense is going to do so well. He studies the game. He's become a student of the game. He knows how a tackle is going to set him. He knows when the slide's coming to him. He knows when he's got his one-on-one matchups. He understands the situation of the game, of when he can take a shot, when he's got to be a little bit more cautious. Coach Kane's done a phenomenal job of tweaking some of his pass rush game. That's given him a little bit more in his arsenal this year. And take all that and just wrap it up into a guy that is an unbelievable competitor and is going to find a way to help us win games every Saturday.
When you first got here, what jumped out to you about meeting Kyle Emanuel?
Great motor, for starters. There was a lot of those redshirt freshmen when I got here that they understood the game, which in for a coach, that's sometimes the hardest thing. Is we see some really good athletes out there that don't understand maybe the game of football exceptionally well, or don't understand our system exceptionally well. When a freshman, a redshirt freshman, you can name off all those guys that are in Kyle's class that understood our system so well so early. It's just so it gives us such an advantage on defense, and that's what I noticed about Kyle quickly, was he understood the game so well, and he had a great motor, and he had a great work ethic. And if you have those things, you're gonna get better every year. And like we had talked, he's playing more snaps this year. We weren't going to rotate him. It's something I told he and Hardy last spring. You're not going to rotate as much this year. Now, Mike, unfortunately, has been beat up a little bit, so we've had to rotate him. But Kyle's playing more snaps, and Kyle would have a lot more stats. But we've had really good defensive ends to be able to rotate 5 or 6 guys in the past. This year, we wanted to kind of lean on the seniors, and he was one of those guys we wanted to lean on. And, our defense usually only plays 55, 60 snaps. Well, in the past, he was getting 25 to 30 of those. Now he's getting 45 to 50 of those. You're going to get more stats, but in the same respect, he's done the right things and understood the game plan to be able to make some plays.
What's your team's game plan with him in mind?
I think more so in the last 6 weeks than probably in the previous 6 weeks or early in the season. I think now, his reputation and the stats that he has gathered, he is gaining a lot more attention. I think you saw that on Saturday when they got into an empty set and put a fullback and a tight end really on both edges to say, I don't care which side you're putting 53 on, we're going to make sure and chip that guy. And those are things that we've got to look at as a staff and defensively to say, okay, now where do we got to move him around?
Is there concern having to go out to Philadelphia with a short prep week and a Friday game? What's the travel?
Well, for starters, it doesn't affect me at all. From my perspective, because I've got great defensive coaches that are getting the game plan set. I don't need to see Kyle play a power or a cut to keep or rush the passer. I promise you he'll do that on Friday. So to me, this is a nice little break for him and a well-deserved honor that I didn't think somebody that has this opportunity should ever have a chance, should ever miss. And this became, it's never about the individual in this football team, but when you have an opportunity to have an individual award like this and he'll celebrate his teammates, I think it's something that we owe to him for all his hard work and all his dedication to NDSU football.
So you're back tomorrow morning? Is that Yep.
Yep. If we get snowed in or iced in somewhere, then I'll work out Kyle tomorrow.
You copy the Friday routine for the last 2 years for this week?
You try to, Don, but we're in finals. So we've played Friday the last 2 years, and we've had a different schedule. And this is our third different schedule, and we're day to day. Kind of, okay, winter finals. We got a lot of kids that would have 3:15 to 5:15 finals. So today we're not going till later. We're not even starting till 5:15, 5:30. But we hope on Friday we're able to get our normal routine with our pregame and walkthrough and stuff.
You said on media day you thought he was the best defensive end of the country. When was the performance this year that kind of solidified it for you?
Iowa State. And then it just carried on from there.
You've talked about how this is a team award. This is everybody around him that's helped him accomplish this. How has he helped the team, though, and kind of raised the level of the defensive expectations?
Well, he makes everybody else better around him because people have to key on him so much. So it's allowed Brian Schatz to make some plays, and Nate, and our backers, and everybody to make plays. But I guess when you can flip on a practice tape and you're a young linebacker or a young safety, and a toss sweep's gone that way or a bubble screen's gone that way, and it's a Tuesday practice, and the first guy that goes and tags off that guy is number 53. And those young kids say, well, why does he do that? He doesn't need to do that. He's going to start no matter what on Saturday. That's not Kyle's mentality. His mentality is, I've been taught, and I know there's only one way to play this game, and that's 1,000,000 miles an hour to great effort. And he'll run that thing down today. That's probably a good thing it's not practicing today. We get another day off his legs because he'll go run it down and tag off on every play.
Chris, what do you know about Coach Keeler?
I've never met him. I know he's had great success at Delaware. I was a defensive coordinator in '07 at Northern Iowa, and they came to the Dome with Joe Flacco at quarterback and beat us. And I think we were the top-ranked team in the country that year. And he's had an unbelievable program at Delaware, and I knew when they hired him at Sam Houston they made a great hire because you just look at his track record. He's had success, and he's going to continue to have success.
Are you surprised to see that they let him go 2 years ago?
I don't know any about the situation, so I don't know.
Offensively,
Chris, do you feel like, just looking at Saturday, G was dynamite, but then fullback dive, something we haven't really seen. Is this off? And then you have three backs in the backfield the next play. Is this offense as tough to prepare for now as maybe it ever has been since you've been here?
I think so. I think Coach P is doing a great job of making us more diversified in what we do. We've got to find ways to get guys. We've got to find ways to get Andrew Bonnet the ball. And we can't always just run naked to him, so we handed the ball off to him on a belly, which we saw on defense last year. Goose and I did that. Furman, we had a hard time stopping that, and so then they watched Furman do it to Coastal, and Tim put it in. Great job by him and the offensive staff of game planning. But we're doing some really good things, I think, to make it difficult for us, especially when you have a running quarterback. If you have a quarterback that's got a chance to beat you with his legs as well as a good running game, it creates you, or it gives you the advantage that defense can only play so many things because you can't lean one way or another, or we'll get you probably offensively.
You worry Carson's a little too aggressive at the end of some of his runs? I know he had a pretty good collision with the linebacker.
Yeah, he stayed in the game. The other kid went out, though, if you remembered. The other kid didn't come back, and Carson did. But Carson's a tough son of a gun. He's not going to. Once again, it's December 15th. Our guys are going to do anything they can to try to get us to advance to the next round.
Congratulations to Kyle, but do you find it odd that a North Dakota State player has not won an individual award up until him, considering the succce you've had the last 4 years?
Yeah, I do find it, but is it, Division I era, since, the mid-2000s, we've had really good players here and really good defenses, really good offenses. I'm so excited that he gets to represent NDSU today.
You guys campaign for him? There's like the Heisman campaign. Is this anything where you try to get his stats out to people that vote, or is there anything to that?
It's a Ryan Peralt question. I don't know. We send a lot of things out from a recruiting standpoint. Coach Gazer does a great job of kind of talking about people's honors and accolades and stuff.